Cheddar, a Somerset village, or town, famous for its gorge, cheese and strawberries. 5 churches, 3 schools and a reservoir, or 2. There are plans to build a second reservoir, and the Kings and Queens news team of the King's Wessex Academy are very eager to sniff out information about this. We'll be interviewing many key people, including our Bristol Water representative, about their views on the idea of another reservoir in our village.
And they made a big web as well.
I'm going to give you. Cheddar 2 is a proposal from Bristol Water, and it's a proposal to meet the demand for the next coming year. Yes, yeah. We've done biodiversity studies on the areas, and we are making alternative arrangements for nature. We've looked at amphibians, birds, we've looked at the flora and fauna, and we've looked at all that, and we're hoping at the end of the day to actually improve the environment there. It's only now that we need the extra water in terms of the demand. A reservoir gives you 2 yields. First of all, the spare yield from the spring, and it gives it the yield from the storage itself. So it's holding 9,000 megalitres, so you've got 9,000 megalitres in store. But we would aim to start with the reservoirs full. We count on starting with about 85%. We can be certain of starting the extreme dry season at about 85 to 90% full, and then there's a drawdown.
From the people that I've spoken to, there's a lot of people that actually would like the reservoir. A lot of people locally use the reservoir, walk around it, cycle around it, take dogs for walks, and so I can see that it's going to be very popular. And one of the things we're having to take into account is the extra traffic in terms of the pedestrians. By traffic I mean local people actually wanting to go to the reservoir and having somewhere to park and walk around the reservoir or cycle around. So yeah, I see it as a huge positive for Cheddar. Well, I've always said when I've spoken to a school in Axbridge, the names are sort of interchangeable. When I'm in Axbridge, I call it Axbridge Reservoir, and it's almost an unconscious thing. And when I'm at Cheddar, I always call it Cheddar. It is Cheddar Spring, and it's listed as Cheddar Reservoir, but in the office we call it Axbridge Reservoir, so it is sort of interchangeable.
Hello, this is Megan from the Kings and Queens news team, and I'm here interviewing Miss Graffinino, Head of Geography. As a geographer, what do you think of the idea of second reservoir in Cheddar?
Well, last Wednesday we had Mr Paul Hodges come in from Bristol Water, and he gave us an outline as to the social, economic and environmental consequences of the reservoir. It sounds to me as if it's needed because of the population growth and industry growth in Avonmouth, and it's really needed by 2016 in order to meet the current demand and projected demands for the future. So although we've already got a first reservoir, apparently we need more water, and Cheddar is an area of surplus because we've got Cheddar Springs, and it's an area which provides a lot of water which we can then use for industry in Avonmouth, and it can actually be used in the local area and to Bristol as well.
So you said that it should be really done by 2016, because when we had the meeting they said it would be done by 2025, so will that present a problem?
That will present a problem. They should have started it already. What they do need to do is, if they are going to build it, they need to get it done sooner rather than later, because in a minute there's going to be a mismatch between the amount of water that's needed and the amount that's being supplied, so the demand and supply won't match up. So 2025 is the projected, because it will also take about a year to fill up before it's even ready to use. So it will take a long time.
And can you tell us a little bit about the controversial reservoir in Northumberland called the Kilda Reservoir?
Yeah. So hopefully Cheddar Reservoir will not be like the Kilda Reservoir in Northumberland. And they built the Kilda Reservoir because of industrial growth in the northeast of England, and Northumberland's in the northwest, so they transferred it by pipeline. And there was a lot of problems because the industry declined and it wasn't actually needed. So all that money, all that woodland that was flooded, people moved out of their homes, big construction project, and it wasn't actually needed in the end. And Mr. Hodges from Bristol Water did put us at ease by saying that this one is needed.
Okay, now I'm going to move on to Chloe.
Hello, I'm Chloe from the Kings and Queens News Messenger team. I'm here with Mr. Davies from the Biology Department. What would you say are the main effects on wildlife that this reservoir may have?
Well, I think actually it might well increase biodiversity in the area. I know that Cheddar Reservoir 1 has been a site of special scientific interest, particularly for bird watchers, dog walkers. I myself like to go up there and have a run around when I can. So I think in that respect there will be an increase in wildlife potentially. I do sympathise for some local villagers who have been forced to sell their land in order to create the space to house the reservoir. But it just seems to me that an increasing population does increase demand for water. As far as public health measures go, introduction of fresh water has probably done more than any other public health measure to increase good health.
What do you think of the environmental impacts that the reservoir may have?
I can see that transporting materials to build the reservoir is going to create problems in terms of road access, going in, going out, large vehicles taking up the roads, potentially increasing traffic. So there could be environmental repercussions from that in terms of pollution, and particularly if it's carrying on for more than 3 years and it's going to carry on for 8 years, yeah, that could have a big impact.
From your perspective, do you think the reservoir is a good or bad thing?
I think it's a necessary thing. I think probably the benefits outweigh the disadvantages of having a reservoir.
This is a map of the proposed reservoir brought in from Bristol Water. This picture shows the already existing pipelines that carry water to the existing reservoir. However, they are proposing using pipelines here, here and here to fuel this new reservoir. In this map we see the proposed parking we already have. Here, here and here, and the rest. However, to support Cheddar's tourist intake, we are proposing car parks here, here and here and here.
This is another map of the proposed reservoir, the existing and the proposed one. As you can see, the blue marks where the water will be. The grey with the dashes around it is the existing Bristol Water asset, and so is the green without the grey without the dashes. The yellow is a scheduled ancient monument, and the blue means a local wildlife site. So you can see there'd be one there and there. The dark green would be a cemetery. That's already there. Existing sport facilities, I think that's the leisure centre. The potential intervention areas, there's quite a lot of those. And potential ecological enhancement areas would be all around the existing reservoir.
This is Beth and Emma reporting for Kings and Queens News Team.
With me now is Peter Lithgow, Chair of Governors at the King's Wessex Academy.
We understand you've been a resident of Cheddar for around 30 years.
Yes, I moved into Cheddar in 1983.
And we also hear that you are the Chair of the Cheddar Parish Council.
I was the Chair of the Cheddar Parish Council. I was on the Cheddar Parish Council for about 25 years.
And we hear you're a keen astronomer.
Yes, I'm a keen astronomer. I've been a keen astronomer for many years. I started off when I was about 14 and I've gone back to it. I have 2 telescopes.
How do you think that the second reservoir will affect astronomy?
Well, I think the extra water vapour that will come up from the second reservoir will aid fog, it will cause clouds, etc., etc., and this will interfere with my astronomy.
You've mentioned excess clouds. Will excess rainfall affect farming in our local area?
Well, excess rainfall probably would. I don't think that the reservoirs will produce excess rainfall. The source of rain is mainly the Atlantic Ocean.
Do you want the second reservoir?
I think the reservoir will be there for useful for people, for leisure. I don't doubt that. It'll be better than the existing one, in fact, from that point of view.
Excess rainfall will also affect tourism. How do you think this will impact Cheddar?
It's true to say that when the weather is really nice, people don't come to Cheddar Gorge, but when the weather is not so nice, they do come to Cheddar Gorge.
So do you think it will increase tourism?
It could increase tourism, yes. And of course, if the water company make a lot of publicity about their new cafe and their beach and so forth, that could increase tourism too.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
This is Emma, Katie, Megan, Beth and Chloe from the Kings and Queens News Team and the Kings of Wessex Academy. After interviewing several people, we have got several arguments for and against Cheddar Reservoir too. One argument against the reservoir is that there is also a proposed supermarket in the area. If this was to go ahead, the children here will be living on a building site. Katie, what do you think?
I think that's a very big problem as well. Is it going to expand Cheddar? Is it going to make it more than a village and more into a town? Is it going to be good for the agriculture of the land?
We've also had problems about excess rainfall and water vapour, which can affect astronomers and the village altogether, but it could increase tourism because people come to Cheddar in the rain.
Also, as we heard from Miss Graffinino, the head of geography, the proposed finish date is 2025, but she said that the population needs it to be done by 2016 to suit everyone's needs.
People may also see biodiversity as an issue, as well as having people living on a building site, which sort of takes away the concept of living in a village.
Okay, so we're delighted to be joined by Mrs. Terry King here, who was born and bred in Cheddar, and she was around when the first reservoir was built. So, Mrs. King, what do you think of the first reservoir? Do you think Cheddar benefited from it?
Well, I'm sure it did, because we had Irish labourers and they were billeted on people, and then we had all the other people who were buying and goods and things in Cheddar, and there were a lot of people here, and the firms, my father's firm benefited from it because he put boreholes down before the actual reservoir was built. So I'm sure Cheddar benefited from it a lot.
What were people's first views on the reservoir back then, about it being built?
Because I was only about 10, and so I don't really remember, but we had children at school who came with their parents, and that was interesting because we had some from Edinburgh and some from all over Britain. The surveyors especially came from all over Britain, but most of the labourers, I think, came from Ireland. And I remember one funny little occasion. Our neighbour had a cottage, the two Miss Webbers, and they had a couple of Irish labourers living there. And one morning, it was a Sunday afternoon, I was in the garden, and the window opened in the bedroom, and out came a flaming feather mattress. He must have gone to sleep smoking a cigarette. Just little things like that I remember.
What do you think of the second reservoir? Do you think Cheddar needs it?
Well, I don't really know, to be honest. I haven't gone into that because it won't affect me a lot. Perhaps I'm being a bit selfish now. I should have gone to all the meetings, but I didn't. So I heard yesterday from Peter Lithgow that there's going to be a restaurant and a beach where you can have a swim. Whether it's true, I don't know. So I'm really not sure about that.
Was it a great culture shock to the people when the res was first built?
It probably was, but I think they got used to it. And I know when the Corinthian Club started, my brother Norman was a founder member of the Corinthian Club, and he had yachts there, and it looks beautiful, especially with the hills behind it.
How many people came into Cheddar to...
I honestly don't know. I should have looked it up or talked to someone else before you came, but I didn't. Sorry.
Was tourism affected back then?
No, I shouldn't think so. I should think Cheddar benefited from it. It probably will from another.
So, overall, what are your views on the second reservoir? Do you think it's a good or bad thing?
Well, to be honest, I can't say if they're going to have a beach, because I'm a bit old for that now, but I've been swimming until a year ago. I would have said, great.
A lot of people are worrying that Cheddar may have a lot of building sites due to this and the supermarket. Do you believe that Cheddar's turning into a bit of a building site?
Well, it's a pity about extra supermarkets, because it means our little shops close down, and I don't want that to happen. Well, it's happened, hasn't it? I'm quite happy with just Budgeons, because I do all my shopping there and they deliver it. So I can't say, to be honest. You have to ask somebody else.
No, it's very interesting.
Thank you very much,
Thank you
Mrs.
very
King.
much.
Well, thank you for coming. It's been nice having you.
We now have some history. Here are some photos of when the first reservoir was built and in construction.
So what do you make of these photos then?
Oh, they're so interesting. I'm seeing if I can recognise anybody there. They're great. Don't car. That little boy looks familiar. I probably was about his age when it was built. Great.
This is Phoebe Lemmer from the Kings and Queens News team from King's Wessex Academy, reporting live from Cheddar Valley Council.
We're here with Mr Ian Lakin, Mayor of Axbridge, and Mrs Lynn Goodfellow, Chair of Cheddar Parish Council.
Firstly, what do you think the social impacts will be on Cheddar and Axbridge as a result of the next reservoir?
Oh, interesting question. We've just started a public consultation, and although I haven't collated all the results yet, there's a very strong feeling that it will really add something to the area with regards to places to walk, places to enjoy wildlife and so on. So socially, I think it probably is going to be accepted, although the plan isn't in front of us yet, in the sense that I haven't yet heard much by way of opposition. And certainly a lot of people looking forward to having it as a leisure centre area.
How will Cheddar Reservoir 2 impact Axbridge as Cheddar's neighbouring town?
Cheddar Reservoir 2, actually, the impact on Axbridge has lessened. Originally, there was a thought by Bristol Water that they were going to put the site was going to be in Axbridge, and there was a groundswell against it from some residents in Axbridge, not all, I'd say. And so that was alleviated when the decision was taken to put it in Cheddar. This has somewhat changed people's views in that it is obviously a great opportunity for a public amenity, for walking, maybe swimming, cycling, bird watching, fishing. And so I think most people are quite excited about it in certain ways. There are certain reservations still, which no doubt we'll come on to in a minute.
It has been proposed it will not be finished building until 2025. During this time there will be a lot of building work. How do you think this will impact on Cheddar?
Oh, quite a bit. Cheddar as a village is really only able to comment on plans that are coming into the area. That having been said, one of our biggest concerns is transport and road haulage and bringing materials in. And we've got local junctions, including the one that we colloquially call Five Ways Bridge, which has got to take the extra weight and delivery lorries coming in that way, at the same time as a new supermarket has been agreed. So we've got one stretch of road which is actually going to be severely affected by this, and residents down there are obviously the ones who are going to be the most put out. So yeah, it does have an impact. It'll be a transport impact, and I certainly have got quite a few councillors who are asking that we lobby to see what can be done about improving the road structure before it gets to the point where a lot of lorries are coming down that stretch of road.
Will Axbridge benefit from having the Cheddar Reservoir too?
I think we will. I think the reservoir will bring in extra tourism to the area. It will not only bring it to Cheddar. What's good for Cheddar is usually good for Axbridge in the way of tourism, because people see Cheddar and then they drive on the bypass and see Axbridge, little medieval town on the edge. And so we get lots of visitors, and it's quite nice. So what's good for Cheddar is good for Axbridge. If we just go back to how it would impact upon Cheddar, as Mr Goodfellow just said, we have great reservations on Axbridge Town Council as to whether the road system, as it is at present, can carry the amount of traffic, not only for building the reservoir, but in the same area you've got a supermarket being built and an awful lot of houses being built, and you've got a tiny bridge over which all this traffic's got to travel onto one of the main roads, well, the main road through from Wales, and it's got to turn right or left there and impact upon the rest of the traffic. And so we totally agree with Cheddar Parish Council that the road system as it stands at the moment is totally inadequate.
We're actually, I have a lot of councillors, and we are talking with Sedgemoor, but it's very, very early days, but the thought of a bypass has been mooted. And that has difficulties, because if you bypass, someone's got to give up good agricultural land to build a bypass. So there are all sorts of controversial issues around that. And then if it ends at the reservoir, it really is only serving one function. If you move it on and bring it to the point where it connects to Sainsbury's and perhaps drops round to the south of Cheddar, then you've got all sorts of difficulties about traffic perhaps not coming into the village and helping the businesses in the village. And we have concerns there, because we already think maybe Sainsbury's, with their new application, might take the centre, damage the centre of the village as a retail centre. So these things are all interconnected, and there's not a single simple answer, because whatever is decided impacts one way or the other. Not easy, really genuinely not easy.
As far as Axbridge goes, if I just comment on that, if you don't mind me jumping in, because we tend to be in agreement, which is unusual for politicians, although I'm not actually a politician. Politics doesn't involve Axbridge Town Council. We have lobbied for Bristol Water to put a road along the Drove, a temporary road along the side of one of the reams, the major reams, as they did recently for their installation of water pipe, from the A38 to the site of the new Cheddar Reservoir. This would alleviate, in fact, absolutely take away all reservoir traffic from coming through Cheddar or bypassing Axbridge. We have lobbied Bristol Water for this, and their consultant has come back to us recently saying that it's not really an option.
Okay, so you discussed benefits on a local scale stretching back to the A38. Do you think there'll be any benefits on a regional scale as the South West?
Not the South West as a whole. The reservoir isn't, as a water supply, is really to serve just south of the Mendips. And there is so much new development coming in, and I have to say that Hinkley Point has got planning permission now. That potentially could bring 10,500 new people into the area working on the building of that. Once it's built, the numbers actually employed will drop to maybe only 900. But this new reservoir is to serve a really rather large expansion south of Mendip, much of it around Bridgewater High Bridge area, but nevertheless it's not so much a regional water supply as a water supply in really quite a small area, and 10,500 extra people coming in will have a huge, more impact on this area perhaps even than the reservoir will be Hinkley Point.
Is there anything you would like to add about Cheddar Reservoir?
I have to say, on a personal level, I'm really quite looking forward to it being there. I think it will be a genuinely nice amenity for the village to have as a leisure facility. As I say, the plan's not in yet, and I haven't yet started to hear what the opposition to it will be. And there will be some, I'm sure, and it'll mostly be based around traffic, inconvenience, nuisance value, noise pollution and things like that. Otherwise, we'll wait and see. We'll see the actual plan in front of us.
And I totally agree again. I think it's a wonderful thing because I really enjoy the existing reservoir. I walk around every day with my dog. My wife jogs around it every day. I have been able to cycle around it. I have fished in it. I mean, it's a great thing it's a resource for people. But we mustn't lose sight of the fact that it is actually a reservoir, and we do need to secure water supply to people. And although we've had the wettest summer in record this last year, before that they were talking of droughts and hosepipe bans, and some people do suffer, certainly in the southeast where they have more houses and water.
Mr. Lacker and Mr. Goodfellow, thank you for talking to us today.
Thank you.
Thank you, it's been a pleasure.
We are currently reporting from Cheddar Reservoir, which you can see currently linked. We find it quite ironic how we're doing a report on the reservoir and yet it's raining. In this reservoir, residents aren't actually allowed to swim in it. However, in the new reservoir, Bristol Water have announced that children are allowed to swim in it, but this will need to bring more people into Cheddar. However, the scheduled completion date is going to be 2025. Many people are worrying if this is going to be too long to be living on a building site. The proposed cost is also £100 million, which a lot of residents are worried on.
Our opinions and our conclusion on Cheddar Reservoir 2.
I am strongly for Cheddar Reservoir 2 because the water it will create will supply our local demand. And with the new supermarket, it would help Cheddar become an independent town.
I'm strongly for Cheddar Reservoir 2. For one, I believe with Emma that it will provide Cheddar with water that is needed. Also, I think it will be a pretty site once it's finished.
I'm for Cheddar Reservoir because it will provide a very good leisure facility for young children in Cheddar. But also with the new supermarket coming, there will be a lot of traffic problems in Cheddar.
I'm not sure about Cheddar Reservoir 2 because there will be lots of traffic and transportation of construction materials, but it will be good for leisure.
Like Beth, I'm not sure about Cheddar Reservoir 2 because although it will be good for youngsters trying to find stuff to do in Cheddar and swim in the summer, it will create transportation problems and there'll be lots of problems with traffic in the future.
I'm against Cheddar Reservoir 2 because it's going to be noisy, it's going to take years to complete,
And what if the demands change? What will happen